Welcome to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast, where insights, attitudes, and methods for success get illuminated. Learn what leaders and change workers have done and are doing now to create magnificent futures. We interview great guests who inspire you to overcome obstacles and achieve your goals. Be sure you visit our website at self-helpcoaching.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, just relax as you listen. You can do something else, but be ready to make an important note. And let's get started.
The title of this interview is Pandemic Prosperity Planning. And we'll be asking the question, how are you going to thrive during these crazy times? Our guest is Dr. Richard Kaye. Dr. Kaye is an internationally acclaimed lecturer, having presented seminars and workshops in Australia, France, Japan, and Russia, as well as the United States. On several occasions, Richard has been featured on KTLA television, Los Angeles, California, discussing two of his favorite subjects, team building and super networking. I want to find out about that. He has also been featured on a PBS special. I want to hear about that too, actually. At the Chopra Center in La Costa, California, where he shared the platform with Lisa Nichols, he spoke about consciousness, cooperation, and contribution, thriving in the developing recession. He's presented the secrets of empowering negotiation at myriad programs and conferences, including at CEO Space. He speaks around the nation about the secrets of empowering negotiation. Dr. Kaye has been a business growth strategist for over 2 decades. 2 decades, that's a long time. Working with entrepreneurs from napkin idea through well into revenue. Countless entrepreneurs have accelerated the growth of their businesses by working with Richard. He resides in Taos, New Mexico. Welcome, Dr. Richard Kaye. Thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, my joy, Tony. Glad to meet you. Even though you got a foot of snow, it's good.
and he has not escaped the snow. He's told me that he's expecting some. And a little inside secret, he's not from New Mexico. He's from Queens, or outside Queens, Elmont, Long Island.
Yeah, that's where it started. Actually, born in the Bronx. So,
well, even better. New York City, I'm biased, of course. But I think New York City is the root of America, Ellis Island and all that, that's where all my grandparents came on, Ellis Island, all 4 of them.
Yeah.
And half of America probably traced their roots there.
And they all started there, sure.
Yeah, I love it. But let's all the anti-New Yorkers are going to probably agitate it now. So let's get right into the meat, into the great stuff.
Okay,
so
Tony.
Let's get right into it. How do you network in a collaborative, cooperative culture?
Tony, most people, and boys and girls, you're watching this, you're listening to this, most people live in a culture of competition. It's scarcity. There's not enough. I need more. I want it all. And that doesn't work. When you show up and our culture of giving, you go first. How can I serve you? And when you show up in that model, the world opens up to you and everything changes. So the networking is not, I do this, I do this, I do this, and buy my business. That sucks. I mean, it's what most people do. Show up. My first question to you may have been, how may I serve you? And you go forward from there. Yeah, there you go.
When I created a virtual coaching program, Proficio, and I was very deliberate in my business model, very deliberate. It had to be win, win, win. Me, partners, and the customers. It had to be that way. I wasn't gonna have any other model, and that's what I created. And we haven't launched yet, but when we start bringing on content partners, that's the model I'm going to share with them. That's the way. Cooperation is where it's at. I mean, when people are naturally competitive, indeed, capitalism is competitive, and there's not an indictment on that of people in capitalism at all. But cooperation is where it's at, and that is where it's at.
Tony, what if we step into cooperative capitalism?
Oh,
it shifts the whole vibration.
I love it.
Yeah, it changes.
Give us an example of cooperative capitalism.
How can I serve you? I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah.
I'll give you, boy, going back years ago, decades ago, I was a chiropractor. And well, I still am. I just don't have any licenses anymore. And after a divorce, my then wife was a chiropractor working in the office. I was in San Diego. And I figured I don't want to be in this office. So I found another location. And there was a chiropractor right across the walkway. Boy, I haven't told this story in years. And I went over, I asked, hey, what's it like practicing here? He says, just what I need, another friggin' chiropractor. I said, whoa. And so I didn't go there. 6 months later, he was out of business. I'll give you a better story, actually.
6 months later.
Yeah. That was just his energy.
Right.
When I moved from New York to San Diego to establish a practice, I went and I joined it. Well, I wanted to join a networking group. And they said, we can't have you here. I said, why not? They said, we already have a chiropractor. I said, there are 3 million people in San Diego County, and you don't want another chiropractor? I said, okay, how good she is. She can't take care of them all. That's competition. As Zig Ziglar used to say, that's stinking thinking.
Yes.
When you open up and invite more people to play, you serve more people and everybody's business grows.
The premier course of my virtual coaching program is by Benjamin Franklin's The Way to Wealth. We adapted it to the modern audience. And he clearly emphasizes the most valuable thing that we have is not money, right? It's time.
Yes.
It doesn't matter who you are. So the better use you make of your time, the more valuable you're making it. So and using cooperation, making it win-win, or even better, win-win-win, as I mentioned, which I strive to do. That's where it's at, man. And it's all about, I think that learning is a critical thing. I think that the key to success, persistence, it's a cliche. It's true that persistence is the key to success. But the other side of that coin is learning. We have to learn. Otherwise, you can persist all your life and still get nowhere because you haven't learned the necessary lessons or broke the dysfunctional patterns, or learn better ways to get better results, right? And I'm 56. You look to be about the same age. I have learned that the cooperative pattern or program is the best way.
You talk about learning from mistakes. Huge believers. So I'd rather learn from someone else's mistakes than my mistakes.
That's the best way. That is the best way.
And we build and we build and we build on that stuff. And that's where, again, everybody wins. There's old drawings of pulling people up by their bootstraps instead of pushing them down. You help people, you serve them. And the resonance of everything changes and people will show up. The human being, Tony, it's in our DNA to serve other people and to be of service. And ladies and gentlemen, if you ever doubt that, look what happens when there's a tragedy, when there's someone trapped under a car. People who don't know that person literally will lift up that car, call 911, do whatever it is. Yeah, there are some outliers who will do other stuff, but most people will recognize the hard wiring to serve and help people.
Totally, absolutely. Now I know you're very much into business, but and you're a doctor, of course. Are you a psychologist?
No.
Just a doctor of chiropractic?
Yes.
I'm not minimizing.
No. I laugh
because you seem to know the mind very well. That's why I asked that.
I've done a lot of work with Tony Robbins, a lot of work with you name it. I've been there, Think and Grow Rich, and we already talked about Zig Ziglar. And the degree locks us into a box. So I don't have the degree. As a chiropractor for 30 years in San Diego, you're dealing with people. You better know the psychology of people.
Absolutely.
Because life is not just about headache and back pain. So there are two kinds of people. People who use, in this reference, there are lots of different kinds, of course, people who use their wounds, their hurts, their divorce, their whatever it is. And I'm not minimizing any of those, but people who use those as an anchor and that holds them back. And how many times, if you're on Facebook, do you see the story of the drama and the trauma? The other kind of person, Tony, is the kind who looks at that and says, shit, I'm not, yeah, that's fuel to drive me forward. There was a meme on Facebook some time ago of a drunk in an alley. Somebody's interviewing him. And the question is, how come this is the way you are? He says, oh, my father was an alcoholic. Then the guy's interviewing.
By the way, I've been sober 21 years.
Congratulations, Tony. So you've gone to the other side and you know what it's like.
Yeah.
So you'll appreciate this next one, because then this guy's interviewing a millionaire and he says, how come you're like this? He says, well, my father was an alcoholic.
Absolutely.
And I decided I was going to do something different. So we can use
Absolutely.
the past as an anchor, or we can use it as fuel and propel us forward. And you obviously use it as fuel.
My girlfriend just broke up with me a few weeks ago, and she said, and she was trepidating the discussion, and during and afterwards, she said she was shocked on how well and pleasant the breakup went, because drama. You said drama, and you get the drama from conflict. Conflict is drama. I've learned to understand and accept. Indeed, my recovery from addiction is based on acceptance, and actually all happiness or peacefulness is based on acceptance, right? And one of the key ways to do that and get other benefits is to understand. That means to float over into the other person's perspective, look through their eyes. What are they thinking? And then even go over in what we call an NLP, neuro-linguistic program, to the third position, be a fly on the wall, observe the two people, what's going on. There's a lot more going on than what I'm seeing from behind my two eyes. And that's just my perspective. So if I increase my perspective, I can have different choices and make better choices, and so I've learned to understand much more readily, much more easily by looking around.
And I if I had the place to honor you, I would honor you because you stepped into be here now,
Yes.
And it's Ram Dass, everybody talks about that, be here now. And will it matter in 6 minutes, 6 months, 6 years? And take a look. And that third position is a very powerful place. And ladies and gentlemen, what that looks at is be the observer, not the participant. Because when my fiance came in here this morning and she's trying to dissolve some stuff from a former marriage and the trust fund, and she's got tears in her eyes. And I said, honey, what's going on? And she told me, and I said, just remember, it's not about you. You're in this case at the receiving end. I said, take a deep breath in. And she did, and then took a breath out. I said, do it again. And it's like, everything shifted. So when she went back in and made a call to the attorney, let the attorney handle it. That's what we pay these people for. And there's a very powerful note from the Talmud, Tony, that says, we don't see the world as it is. We see it as we are.
Of course, that's huge.
Yeah, so we see it through our own lens, our own perspective.
That was a critical thing for me to learn. I learned it many years ago because, quite frankly, Richard, I used to hate the world. If you could have showed me where the doomsday button was, I would have pressed it. And I mean that sincerely, without hyperbole. Now, years later, after a lot of development and work on myself, I love the world and I love myself. And I used to say I love myself. It was just total denial. It was just denial. I just couldn't even conceive of not loving myself. But yet I had all this, I was a guy who wanted to see the world burn. So I had issues.
Yeah. And you were seeing it through your perspective. My
Right.
hallucination is you were not free of alcohol yet,
Right.
or if you.
That's the way I was. Now
Yes.
I'm the way I am, which is
Yeah.
very different. Like I said to my now ex-girlfriend, she was like, I didn't know a breakup can go this well. I'm like, I understand. I accept.
And this is an invitation to watch what happens in your life and hers, because
Totally.
I've been divorced, unfortunately, well, not fortunately, more than once, and each one is a gift to get me to where I am, to be
Absolutely.
with Angel, just an amazing soul. So watch what unfolds in your life. It's, again, you're not using it as an anchor, and that's pretty freaking awesome that you're using it as a fuel. Love your attitude.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Absolutely.
this is the first time Tony and I are meeting, really. So this is really good.
I think we're simpatico, and absolutely, I totally concur. Right now I'm studying Stoicism, specifically the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius with a protege, and I always, or for the longest time, I didn't believe that anything happened for a reason. Certainly, I believe in cause and effect, but I believe that there was too much chaos and there's free will. But I'm really accepting and really subscribing more and more of the time, as Aurelius espouses, that everything is providence. Everything that happens is supposed to happen, and not that we're puppets. There's a much bigger picture than that, and it happens so that the better thing can happen later in the future.
So watch this, because I'm sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were.
No, go ahead.
So you talk about chaos. I invite you and listeners and viewers to understand that chaos is just a matter of perspective. If you look under an electron microscope at an atom, you see all this, what appears to be chaos. Electrons may or may not even be there. They're just, everything's going at a crazy pace. Then you step back and you see the whole atom. And you step back and you see the molecule. Then you step back and you see the substance, whatever it is. The chaos that we looked at through that little lens disappears. So we're just too close sometimes to situations, so it looks chaotic.
Right.
But it's beyond that.
Right,
perspective. Yes.
Right, very good. So before we take a quick commercial break, just to encapsulate, when it comes to collaborative, cooperative culture, or making a network in it, it's just being of service, asking to be of service. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
That's a pretty good encapsulation, and there's more, which we'll talk about on the other side.
Very good. Okay, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with Dr. Richard Kaye.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Proficio. Ever heard of accelerated learning techniques? What if you learned more deeply than ever before? What if you remembered what you learned far better than ever before? Visit www.proficio.io. That's proficio.io, where you can understand perhaps better than ever before.
You're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with me, your host, Tony Petrozza. We're talking with Dr. Richard Kaye, and we're now going to continue speaking about collaborative, cooperative culture.
And I'm going to tease people a little bit. Later on in the program, I'm going to give you a bunch of stuff that has retail prices, and I'm going to give it for free. Why? That's collaboration and cooperation. How can you show up? How can you serve other people? And I'm going to give you an example going back to my my days in chiropractic. And Tony, you read that resume beautifully, and I know because I wrote it. And how did I get to have PBS come in and do a special on me? I was fairly famous when I was practicing, and this is not to impress anyone, but as my buddy Tony Robbins says, to impress upon you. Where
I love that expression. I love it.
I have a letter sitting on my desk here to get some more connection with Tony. I've known him for a long time.
He quite frankly, he's an icon of mine. He is the man. And it's not just because we have the same first name.
Well, we talked you mentioned CEO Space, and several years ago, I invited Tony to come to CEO Space, and he came. It was a little bit more than just, hey, come, but he came to CEO Space. And so that's kind of a segue here. When I was famous in newspapers, radio, television, PBS, give you an idea how long ago it was. The PBS special, I was handing my practice members half-inch VHS tapes of it. Okay.
I mean, Tony Robbins is as successful as ever, but I think he might have been his climax in the 90s, or he became, maybe selling personal power with infomercials. I don't know, but he in the 90s, he was huge. He's still huge, but maybe there's so much more media now, bombarding us that it's hard to see how huge he is. But yeah, he's huge, man. And he's probably worth like $500 million, his personal worth.
Now that COVID shut a lot of stuff down, he's doing If you ever look at his stuff on Facebook or any of his emails, he has walls of monitors as he's working with thousands and thousands and thousands of people in their own homes. And some of my friends work with him behind the scenes. And it's like, geez, it's bigger than NASA, all the stuff he's got out there. So that was famous. And I heard about this organization, CEO Space, and I heard it was a business building conference. And I said, I don't need this stuff. I was 24 years younger and I believed all the press. So I said, I don't need this stuff. Well, I got back from CEO Space and my practice over 9 months doubled, Tony. And it wasn't because of my BS degree in business management from Long Island University. That is BS. I learned how to go have a job. I learned how to do collaboration, cooperation, and show up and serve. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't care what kind of business you have. If you want to grow a business, one of the fastest ways to do it is through collaboration. So I said, how can I do this? Well, I called massage therapists, I called acupuncturists, I called nutritionists, I called even NLP people. And I said, listen, I got clients that I can't help. You got clients that you can't help. What if we refer to one another instead of keeping them tight and coming in scarcity? And to some people, it was like, hang up the phone. Because you did that back then. You had a physical phone.
Right.
And we served more people. And Tony, it got to a place that one day I said, I'm going to stretch. I called an orthopedic surgeon. And I got, through his gatekeeper, and I invited him to lunch like everybody else. And the same conversation. People would think that orthos and chiropractors hate one another. Well, I won't say we became friends, but we became friendly. Right. To the point that he invited me in to watch surgery one day. He called me up. He says, Richard, this guy that you referred to me, he needs surgery. Why don't you come over and watch? The nurses were freaked out because you got a chiropractor in a surgical suite doing spine surgery. But guess what? The person got better. He loved both of us and was referring to both of us. That's how it's one of the massive ways of building the business is how do you show up and serve? And I could tell you story after. There's a guy I know, Mike, who was a home inspector at the time. At the time, a home inspector was earning 40, 50,000, maybe 60 grand a year maximum. Well, Mike put together some joint ventures. Who did he know? Pool cleaners, HVAC, heating, ventilating, air, carpenters, you name it, electricians. And they started referring back. Mike built a $1 million business. Now he goes and teaches people how to do this. And I love your cup, by the way.
For those 95% of the audience is listening, but if you want to, if you're listening, you want to see the cup, go to YouTube and you can see it. I got a fox with a heart, and it's a ceramic cup, handcrafted. I think an ex-girlfriend gave to me. I got too many ex-girlfriends. I can't be tied down, Doc. But I knew he was simpatico. As I mentioned earlier about my deliberate business model of win-win-win. With Proficio, which is the name of my virtual coaching program, it's going to transform self-help. So I love self-help, but if it worked, I would have been a millionaire a long time ago. People don't start, people don't complete. That's me, but they don't apply, and most importantly, they don't continually apply the principles, so they don't get the potential of themselves or what self-help offers them. So Proficio will transform self-help because it will solve all those problems. And what I want to do is I want to have every self-help course in the world in my tent, if you will, that has Proficio, Proficio is nothing but a self-help coach, completely customized and automated, right? And it helps the self-help student do all, complete and learn and apply all the stuff. Got to apply, the great misconception out there is that knowledge is power. Wrong. Only applied knowledge is power.
That is so brilliant. Thank you.
So I mentioned about the win-win-win. So now I want to get to all these courses, but I wanted the win-win-win. So I don't look at the people that are authors or own or make self-help courses as customers. I look at them as partners. So I want to partner with them at no cost, zero cost, and make true 50-50 partnerships with them. And we take most of the risk. Why? Because I believe in what you profess and subscribe. How can I be of service? I am of the absolute conviction that the better I serve, the better I will be served. And so let me help these people get the, if they got old self-help course, they'll revitalize. If they got new ones, but people are going to get what they want. The customer, the consumer, they're going to get what they wanted instead of getting in their way again and getting distracted, quitting, which is what happens 99% of the time. And the dream goes away, right? I know this, I'm speaking from experience, by the way. So that's where I wanted, partnership. And then we'll serve the customer together, what I bring, what you bring, and they will win, because we're going to make it so that they do win. Win, win, win. This is, I believe, one of the things I want to do when my company starts staffing out. I want it to be a profit sharing company. I want to, put a happier face on capitalism, not reinvent capitalism, but, help it get rid of some of the stigma that it has, because I love capitalism, but I don't like exploitation. If people are truly making a company very prosperous, then they should be able to enjoy more of the profits. And that's my vision.
So I love your attitude. I love your energy, and I love your vision, because obviously it's a place I live. So, we like they say opposites attract. Nonsense.
For a second.
Well, that works when you're dealing with the North and South Pole magnet. Look at your closest friends, ladies and gentlemen. They're just like you. And Tony, I'd like to offer your listeners here something that we can actually do a deep dive and explore that conversation on how they can grow their businesses. And it's like, what has to happen to bridge the gap between where you are in your business and where you can be? And what I'm offering you and your listeners is a conversation. And when I do this in other venues, it's $375. And ladies and gentlemen, it's yours for the asking. I'm going to give you the URL to go to, and it's simply booking a 45-minute call.
Wow, fantastic. Usually we offer a free gift at the end if my guest is so has one, but you're offering one right in the middle of the interview worth $375. Wow, that's a precedent. That's fantastic, Richard. Thank you so much.
I'm going to offer your people something even more valuable. That's not true. Different value in a little bit. So you can go to richardkaye.com, RICHARDKAYE.com/talk.
Hold on, Richard. It's not Dr. Richard Kaye, because I have
That's correct. That's a different website.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure it's right. RichardKaye.com, just as Richard himself spelled. Okay, I'm sorry. And /talk.
/talk, and set up, reserve yourself a 45-minute conversation. And my pledge to you, Tony, through you to your people, is not a sales call. I'm retired from chiropractic. I've been working with entrepreneurs for almost 24 years. June will be 24 years, and love helping entrepreneurs grow. So it's richardkaye.com /talk. And I think you're going to fall in love with what I got for your people in a little while also.
That is
fantastic. It's, in growing businesses, when your bedrock is how can we serve instead of how much can I make, people love working with you. And what does that do? That spreads. It's not a good word today. That grows through your culture. I mean, who would you want to deal with? People, people who are nasty, or people who live in the same place as you and want to give back? When you give, my fiance blows me away. We had some people over for dinner the other night, and I was telling a story about who she is and what she does. She went to the local supermarket, and there was this bedraggled guy sitting outside, the proverbial, and anything helps. And she stopped to talk with him. Most of us, these people are invisible to us, and all they need is some love and attention. And she got into a conversation with him. He was drunk, homeless, clothes looked like you can imagine a street person. And he says that his father slit his mother's throat in front of him.
Wow.
Yeah. And she told a story, Angel told a story, where her father only threatened to kill the mother in front of them. Well, she had a conversation with this young kid and said, it's not your fault. This is, you can be in your circumstance, I can't even imagine the conversation. She went in and got him a sandwich and told me this on the way home. A month later, she's at a different store, and this guy's out there playing his guitar, looking, just like he's busking and, getting some money. And he looks at her and says, "I know you." And he remembered she was the one who told him that he can live and have a life. And she gave him another $20. And
He improved himself.
He was not drinking anymore. Yeah, and he was living in the men's shelter. She writes book. The second leading cause of adolescent death, Tony, is suicide. And her books, programs, and workshops are designed to keep kids alive rather than suicide.
This is your wife?
Soon to be fiance. Yes,
okay.
sir.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Oh, it's amazing. And as
I
a matter
love
of
it.
fact, her second book, we have an endorsement from Jack Canfield.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Those of you who don't know, in the field of personal development and self-help, he is a well-recognized author, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and a couple others. He's an NLP practitioner. He's a very big entrepreneur and personal development guy. Fantastic. So what did Canfield say? I mean, you can just give me the synopsis, Richard.
Oh, I got it here someplace. He said, you have to read this book. And by the way,
What's the title?
If you look up Angela Lee, ANGELALEGH.
Wait a second. That's your fiance?
Yeah.
I just interviewed her about a month ago.
That's too funny.
That is fantastic. You've got to let her know after this who just interviewed you.
That's so funny.
And she is wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's fantastic.
Yes.
She is fantastic. Wow, what a great match, man. There's no wonder. Wow, this is fantastic, man. It's so cool.
And just as an aside, Jack and Mark Victor Hansen created Chicken Soup for the Soul while at CEO Space.
Whoa.
30 years ago, they created Chicken Soup for the Soul. It got born at CEO Space. I'll knock on the wall. She's in her office right behind me. I should knock on the wall.
That's great. So we're going to get into more of it, but let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back and we'll talk. I want to talk more about CEO Space and other things, but a quick break here from our sponsor. And we'll be right back with Dr. Richard Kaye.
Okay.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Perphysio. Poor finances are the leading cause of stress, divorce, and general troubles. Financial managers, coaches, and consultants are great, but responsibility rests with you. There are new answers. Visit www.perphysio.io. That's PERFICIO.io, where you can truly learn the foundational attitudes and methods of accruing wealth and staying wealthy.
You're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with me, your host, Tony Petrozza. We're speaking with Dr. Richard Kaye. And I want to continue. Well, let me ask the next question. That's the natural progression of this. What skills, strategies, and tactics do you need to develop a 5-year growth goal to raise your outcome? So we're talking about business. We're talking about networking, talking about the right attitude. Now we're talking about business growth.
Be vulnerable.
Ooh,
Accept feedback. How many of us have laser vision and we don't allow anything to come in? There's no peripheral vision. We set our goal. Imagine, Tony, people who had a goal 2 years ago, and where is it now? The world changes in a heartbeat. And as we go through this, we have to negotiate our way through life. At CEO Space, we used to do 5 physical programs a year for a week long. We used to feed everybody 3 meals a day. Nobody does. Well, there are a few people who are going out and doing some smaller events. They're kind of testing the waters. There's an event called the Marketers Cruise, which I was on 2 years ago. It's an amazing adventure. We had 450 people on that cruise. The one that was done a month ago, the beginning of January, I was told they had about 200 people. people are terrified of this COVID stuff, and
Yes.
this does not get political or medical. It's real. It's the reaction that people are having to it, the societal
Right,
reactions to
right.
it. The world has changed.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Change is constant, really, but sometimes it really sucks.
Sometimes it does, yeah. And if you buy into the cultural story, you're going to get screwed.
Hmm.
And again, I'm not talking
concur.
do the vaccine or don't, but if you buy into cultural stories, so that's an individual decision. And my invitation, listeners, is allow someone to have a different perspective than you. There's no right and there's no wrong. It's just what's so.
Right.
There are people dying from the vaccine. There are people dying from the vaccination. So,
It was very, very est of you, Richard, to say that, by the way.
One of the leading S trainers was a very dear friend and patient of mine many, many years ago, a guy named Herb Tanzer.
All right. I love est. I think est is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love all personal development. And I think, and my hat's off to est and to, was it Reinhardt? I forget the founder's name right now.
Yeah, Earhart.
He's great. He's great.
Yeah.
But let me ask about CEO Space. Now you're a member of CEO Space, because I'm not sure.
When I went the first time, over 2 decades ago, my life was changed. My life was changed. My business, as I said, doubled over 9 months. So I slowly started working with this organization. We're here total 30 years, and I'm with them almost 24. So I've become an integral part of it. I don't own it. I'm not the CEO. The founder, who is now deceased, Bernie Dorman, was a very close personal friend. We traveled the world together, building businesses, certainly the country. So I just continue the mission of helping entrepreneurs grow. And people have raised over $3 billion using us as a resource. People say, I've seen other organizations. Yeah, they're all out there and they're all good. I just had a phone call with someone before our call. And she said, well, I'm going to check out this other organization. Great. We're not instead of anything, Tony. We're in addition to.
You've intrigued me. I'm going to learn more about CEO Space. So I thank you for introducing me to it. It's very intriguing.
Thank you. It's a culture of collaboration. Forbes and Inc. for almost a decade have said it's the #1 business conference. They said it's the one you cannot afford to miss. And they say that because of the culture. Mm. It's again showing up. It's not how many times, my hallucinations, you're on a lot of these,
I love how you used I learned to say that word too in the 90s from Tony Robbins. I know how closely you are with him. Undoubtedly you derived that from him, but I do not dispute that at all. We hallucinate all the time and we think it's true.
Life's a hallucination. Isn't that real?
Isn't it incredible how people think their beliefs are truth? I know this. I'm like, do you really know it or you just believe it? Because
that's a brilliant distinction, because there's a difference between knowing and believing.
Huge.
Yeah. This is belief up here. Knowing is organic. So yeah. Right. And I've done a lot of work with Tony. So
he's the man.
I've been to his island, Namali, Fiji, which is
great.
Scuba diving. He didn't go scuba diving with me, but we were out there at his retreat.
I'm a scuba diver too. I love it.
Oh, cool.
That's fantastic, cool. Man. Let me get to my next question. What does it take to develop new joint venture relationships and alliance partners?
Be flexible. And you've heard me say this a few times. Go first. When I set up joint ventures, I will call someone, depending on the nature of it, of course. And heck, my chiropractor days, that's not happening now. And talk about promoting if I'm involved in something, I can promote the heck out of it. I just had a conversation with someone, quite frankly. I said, I get 5 emails a day. It's too much. If I'm promoting something, and if you'd like, I'll add you to the mailing list so you can see the things we do.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. CEO Space started joint ventures. Now, that's a pretty bold statement considering how many people teach them today, but we were doing it 30 years ago. We didn't have the language back then. So it might mean.
So they coined the term joint venture?
No.
Okay.
No, we didn't. That's not us, because that's scarcity, saying nobody else can use it.
No, I wasn't implying.
No, I understand it, but our cultures, we give it away.
Right.
And I don't know.
Okay, now I understand. Go ahead, now I understand.
Yeah. So it means finding someone in a parallel space. So we're talking consciousness here. My specialty is business. There's still consciousness in the work I used to do as a chiropractor. It was beyond, as a matter of fact, the work I used to do is called Network Spinal, and it's Tony's Choice of Care.
Network what?
Network Spinal.
Spinal.
I'll introduce you to some people. I think I have someone in Brooklyn. I know I got on the island. I know I got in Manhattan. I'll introduce you to someone.
Right.
It's not headache and back pain. It's about being in touch with your being, your soul, your source, whatever you call it. It's when you're more connected to source, and it's not religion. When you're more connected to source,
right,
your whole being functions. I had a tooth extraction yesterday, and the next visit was right after that to my chiropractor.
Wow.
And exactly. And when your body knows how to heal.
Sure does.
The body needs no help. It just needs no interference. And that's the overall premise of every natural healing part.
I mentioned my last girlfriend. She takes drugs all the time, prescribed drugs, and she's like devoted to them. She says it helps them. I don't dispute that. But me, I don't even want to take an aspirin for a headache. Not that I won't, but I'll try to feel better on my own for a little bit. But if it starts hurting me, I'm not a masochist, but I really prefer not to take drugs. I will take them. As they become more compelling to take them. I don't want to be a Luddite, I don't want to be an idiot, but I really believe the body heals itself, and you give it a chance to do that without, torturing yourself.
Well, Tony, you're absolutely right. There is a place and a time for drugs and medicine and surgery. There was no way in hell I was going to let that guy pull that tooth without some lidocaine.
Right. Yeah, forget the lidocaine, doc. I can tough it out.
Right. Metaphorically, all aspirin does is raises the pain threshold, so you don't feel it. You just don't know what's going on because you don't feel it. So you're in a joint venture with these drugs, and unfortunately, when I was an electronics engineer in my first incarnation.
Wow.
And when I started at this particular company, a guy was taking 1 Tums tablet a day. A year later, he was taking the entire roll of 10 or 20 or whatever it was.
There you go.
He was treating the symptom.
It might have got, because condition might have worse, but you saw how he was dependent. And
I watched it. So to go back to the question, setting up a joint venture, find someone who is in a similar space. And the software does this automatically these days, and you promote someone for what they do. And it's easier when you're involved with that program. And you'll see, there's a lot of things that I'm involved with, and that when I say I promote, I will let people know about what they're doing. I just sent out an email this morning about a global networking event we're having at CEO Space. And this is open to anybody. Others were just membership only, where only someone who is a member can participate. And it is a zone of, I love the expression, I'll go first. How can we serve? So ladies and gentlemen, find someone, use the example that as a chiropractor, or if you're a medical doctor or a massage therapist or an acupuncturist, call people in your neighborhood. Yes, it costs me a lot of money for lunches, but we wound up serving more people. The surgeon I took to dinner, serving more people, and quite frankly, increasing your bottom line. And you do it with grace and know that you're serving more and more people. If you're in it, and whatever the it is for the money, you're in the wrong business. Go find how to show up and contribute to humanity instead of being a leech. And these kind of people, they walk into a room and you feel there's no more oxygen left. As when, my hallucination, Tony, is when you walk into a room, it lights up, because I got you so far for 45 minutes. I get a real good sense of who you are.
You haven't seen my bad side yet, Doc. No, but I appreciate that.
We all have it.
We all do. We all are a dichotomy.
And that's what makes life so fascinating. Anytime you see someone who's always got that big smile, well, I say this lovingly, find out what
Yes.
drugs they're on. Yeah.
On that note, let's take our final break to hear from our sponsor, and we'll come back with one more segment with Dr. Richard Kaye.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Perficio. What if you could get the results of being coached without a human coach? What if a computer could coach you? Visit www.perficio.io. That's PERFICIO.io, where you can get coached without scrutiny, judgment, or pressure.
You're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with me, your host, Tony Petrozza. We're here with Dr. Richard Kaye. By the way, Doc, when you talked about making yourself vulnerable in business, you know, it reminded me of myself. I have a partner, and it's a great partnership. Indeed, I think that our success is based on our partnership rather than either partner. Even though I'm a senior partner, nonetheless, I totally value the relationship and the partnership. I am the risk-taking type, and he's the very grounded, cautionary type. It's a wonderful yin-yang. Oh, it's so wonderful. I want to take all these chances. Okay, you know, I'm like that because I really see the benefits or the possible benefits of it. He's like, no, let's take it in and out. But it's a perfect thing. He needs me and I need him. So it's wonderful. Yes, risk taking is where it's at. To me, my mantra is no risk, no reward. The greater the risk, the greater reward. Of course, you can fall flat in your face or worse, but you've got to calculate. You got to calculate, man.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I had an uncle, long since dead, who told my parents, don't send him to college. Let him go to work in the post office. That's what he did. I mean, they didn't have the expression going postal, but I probably would have done that back then. Be vulnerable means to have the ability to take stuff in and recognize it and not be so lasered in what you must do. And, you know, if you're just joining us, we talked about so many different things, and this relative to this relationship is be flexible. And, you know, I don't know the exact number, but it takes miles for a cruise ship when they turn that rudder to actually make the turn.
Yes.
And Tony, I want to give your listeners something else here. And ladies and gentlemen, everything you do is a negotiation. The first negotiation you do is with yourself every single morning. Whether you get up when you're done sleeping or you get up from an alarm clock, or if you're fortunate, someone nudging you and saying, honey, it's time to get up, you know, you'll go back to that, Tony.
Right.
You decide, am I going to get up or am I going to stay here for a little while? Everything you do is a negotiation.
Right. Yes.
There are 7 what I call magical words, which have the potential to decrease what you pay for something or increase what you get paid for something. Tony, years ago, someone asked me to teach the work I was doing through his seminar. And we talked where, when. Finally, the question came to how much.
Tony Robbins did.
No, this is not Tony.
Oh, okay.
No, someone asked me to teach.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Tony hasn't asked me to teach. It's okay.
Maybe.
And I said 7 words. He doubled what he was offering to pay me. He doubled it.
Okay. I want to hear them.
We're having a master class. It's in April, and I'm going to give you a website for that. The usual tag on this retail is $497. And ladies and gentlemen, if you go to Richard Kaye, you know that by now, RichardKaye.com/masterclass. It's just yours for the registering. It's going to be, I believe, April 23rd. It's going to be 90 minutes to 2 hours. It's going to be interactive, and you will leave there with new skills, not stuff you have to go home and study. You're going to leave with new skills, guaranteed. And by the way, I guarantee you'll have fun and change your life.
This is a masterclass for joint ventures.
This is a masterclass for life, for negotiation.
Negotiation, okay.
A woman emailed me yesterday and said, well, I work with solopreneurs. They don't negotiate. I said, excuse me?
I was astounded.
And I just wrote this, I wrote her the 2 paragraphs, 2 sentences that I just said. Guy doubled what he was offering to pay me. Anyway, come play with us, richardk.com/masterclass. We can talk about joint ventures, ladies and gentlemen. You set up a time for us to talk. If you ever decide you want to use CEO Space as a resource and tap into our I'll give you an example of who our faculty are. We talked about Jack Canfield, Alex Stern, the guy who created Constant Contact and sold it. He stayed for the acquisition, which was $1.1 billion with a B, $billion. He's faculty. Greg Reed, some of you may know, started Secret Knock. Jay Abraham, Tony, if you or I call him, it's $15,000.
Abraham is incredible.
Yeah, $15,000 an hour just to talk with him. He just did a 4-hour masterclass for us. We open our members up to these kinds of things.
This is CEO Space?
The CEO Space, yes.
I tell you, I don't know if I mentioned it yet, but I want to learn more about CEO Space.
Yeah, it would serve you well because of the space in which you live, and that is your coaching that you want to do collaboratively. Hello. The guy who pulled my tooth yesterday, he's in a complex, and there's got to be a half a dozen different dentists right there. I love it. That's the way life is meant to be. And your model, from what I'm learning, is elevating that. And again, I go back, the more people play in that and raise the vibration, it's like the Northern Lights, beyond you. It's amorphous, but it changes the vibration for everybody.
I love it.
Yeah. So
let me get one more business question in before we get to the conclusion. How can you increase client retention in the modern age?
Funny you should ask. I have a book.
Perfect.
And the book is The Secrets of Creating Customers for Life.
Fantastic.
And I'd like to give that to your...
You're going to do a giveaway on that too?
Going to give that away too.
Oh my God. I've never had a guest so generous as you, quite frankly. I mean, this is like the 4th gift you're offering, and they've all been valuable.
Well, this, I guarantee, will change your life also. richardk.com. You're used to that link by now. richardk.com/customers-free. Customers-free. And you can download the PDF. You can spend $19.97 on Amazon. Either's fine. And I'll give you an answer for that. Don't treat your customers and clients the way you want to be treated. Treat them better than the way you want to be treated. Get a mailing list and don't bombard them. There's a restaurant here in town. This story's in the book. A dear friend of mine owns a restaurant. One day she said, hey, would you go on Yelp and write a review? I said, yeah, of course. What if Jennifer had asked me for my email address and a sign-in list? Would you like to be on our email address? And every week or every month, she sends out an email about the specials of the week. Or, hey, it's wintertime. These are the better kind of foods that we provide for you. And oh, by the way, if you bring in a new customer, we're going to give you a free dessert. I mean, a dessert, and I was a principal in another startup restaurant here, so I can tell you a dessert may cost $1 or $2, but I'm going to make 30 or 40 bucks on the meal. Is it worth the trade-off? Hello, the answer is yes. The secrets in that book, some of them, Tony, they're new, and some of them you can say, I know that. How come I'm not doing that? I'm going to start now.
Right.
And it's fun. It's light reading. It takes you on adventure. It's chunked down into readable segments so that you can apply every single segment, and it's guaranteed to change your bottom line. Everything I do, yes, I love capitalism, but cooperative capitalism is designed to increase the abundance of everybody.
That's where it's at. We are in total agreement on that, sir. Okay, this has been an excellent interview. But the way I want to end it is I want you to review the free gifts that you offered, so there's people are clear on it. Hello, Kat. So please, I think you mentioned 4 things. So please just reiterate them, and so people have clarity.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. One is an exploratory call for you to explore, do a deep dive into what has to happen to bridge the gap between where you are in your business and where you can be. That usually retails for $375. And the links I'm going to give you, they're all richardkaye.com, RICHARDKAYE.com. This one is /talk. Just your name and email address to set up a 45-minute phone call. Number 2 is negotiation masterclass. Everything you do is negotiation. You're going to learn 7 words, which can decrease what you pay for something and increase, as it did in my personal situation, doubled what I got paid for something. It's a free masterclass in April, usually retail $497. URL is richardkaye.com masterclass. Third is turning your clients into raving fans, and that's a book. And you can either download the free PDF, or if you're like me, it's over there someplace. I like to still read paper.
Right. Something in your hand.
Yeah, it's that you'll see it sells for $19.97. You can get it for free at richardkaye.com /customers, CUSTOMERS -free. It's my joy to give stuff away, Tony. Love it.
Richard, you have been the most generous guest I've ever had, but I really, quite frankly and sincerely, it's been a wonderful conversation and a pleasure getting to know you. We're simpatico. We have many shared ideas. We're all about business, but we're about, cooperation and compassion, without being a tree hugger. By the way, I have hugged trees, but I wouldn't say I was a hippie, but I have hugged trees because I love our environment. But I think we have a lot in common, and it really was my pleasure. Would you like to say a final goodbye to our audience?
Yeah, and I want to share a story. We talked about network, this model that I used to practice. My son and I think he was about 8 or 9. We were up at the Mount Shasta at a healing retreat for this stuff. And he was kind of being nudgy. I said, "Go, Jonathan, go hug that tree." And he looked at me like, I said, "Just go hug the tree." He came back about 15 minutes later. He said, "Dad, the tree was talking back to me." Everything is alive, Tony. Even boulders are alive. They just move very slowly, but life is meant to be enjoyed. Live it to the highest vibration that you can, and show up and serve others. And Tony, I love this conversation with you. Thank you. We're going to get to know one another better.
I see that happening. I definitely see it happening. I really appreciate your time, and it's been my pleasure. And so I want to remind my audience that we're all responsible for ourselves, and we can all use a little help. And with that, thank you for joining us, and I'll see you at the next episode of the Self-Help Coaching Podcast. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you for tuning in to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast, where insights, attitudes, and methods for success get illuminated. Learn what leaders and change workers have done and are doing now to create magnificent futures. Remember to visit our website at self-helpcoaching.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Self-Help Coaching Podcast.